This is Townsquare Sunday on 1420 WBSM, a place where people come together to talk about some of the good things happening in and around New Bedford. A place to share, a place on the radio for the people.
Come together right now over me.
And now, the moderator of Townsquare Sunday, 1420 WBSM's Jim Phillips.
Good morning, happy Easter, and welcome to Townsquare Sunday. We're heard every Sunday at this time, so thanks for tuning in. My guest making his second visit to our program, he's New Bedford Police Chief Joseph Cordeiro. Thank you, Chief, for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Jim. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and your tie made my day.
All right, great. We've got to talk about some things that, there's a lot of wonderful things going on with the police. The business of fighting crime, however, crime never stops, and that's always an unpleasant situation here in New Bedford. But it's really in every major city or small city or even in small communities. It's just there. The crime numbers were down in 2017. Is that fair to say?
So most of our numbers were down.
Okay.
With one exception, which is a significant one. Thankfully, they weren't all connected, and we had a good resolution on solving those crimes, which was our homicide. Our homicides went up last year, but everything else has dipped significantly in commensurate with other cities and towns, with little uptick. So overall, very happy with it, with the exception, of course, I'd like to see zero
sure.
homicides, across the country, of course, but especially here in New Bedford.
What's fueling the number of crimes in New Bedford? And I think I know the answer. I think most people know the answer. It's narcotics.
Yeah, without question, it's plagued not only New Bedford, but most communities across the country. That's really what drives it up. Your street robberies, your house breaks, stealing of a cell phone. All that stuff is generally, most, not all, exclusively to support someone who is suffering from the disease of addiction.
Or it's it's used to either buy drugs, or it's used to, I'm sure, buy drugs in a larger quantity to resell. There's a lot of that.
Right. So when you look at that whole drug world, right? So you have your lower level drug dealers, your street level dealers. A lot of them are just selling to support their own addictions, their own disease. And then when you start going up there beyond, when you start get up beyond those levels, now you get to more the business, the capitalists trying to make a buck of other people's misery and suffering and fatality in many of these cases with the fentanyl that's on the streets.
Your narcotics unit has had some success, I think, in finding these people who are running these drug operations with packaging material and scales and all of that, and they are selling, allegedly. But I'm sure you can tell me, to some degree at least, that for everyone you get, there's probably 3 or 4 out there that are still in business.
Right. So when you look at the really largest scale of the narcotic distribution in business, the kingpins of drugs, they figured into their business model of a loss of how much drugs is going to be seized and confiscated, and that's worked into the numbers. Believe it or not, that's how they do it. So we are making a very positive impact with our narcotics unit, especially on the street level and the lower level drug dealers. We're having some success with the middle level dealers and even the higher end. We have a detective that's assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration, and they do a lot of incredible work. They just don't advertise their successes as we do more on a daily basis, but we're having a lot of success, to say the least.
All right, and you can't say all of what perhaps I would like you here to say, because obviously there's ongoing investigations and there's things that just you can't talk about at this point. So we'll leave it there. Too many illegal guns in New Bedford. Every time you make a drug arrest, it seems, there's a gun confiscated. That's just how it seems. That may not be the case all the time, but clearly it's a lot. Too many shots fired, complaints, gang activity, and, of course, drugs. Where are the guns coming from, Chief?
So if I can just address that real quickly. So we did exactly, to answer your question, not too long ago, I had our firearms unit, where all our firearms get confiscated, go there. I said, let's assess where these guns are coming from. Are they coming from the iron roadway or throughway in the south of Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina? They're coming up from New Hampshire and Maine, was which we were seeing, and are they coming from locally? So to answer your question, it's a mix. It's a mix we're getting from all those regions, including locally, of being stolen. But the old saying is, drugs, guns, and gangs, they run synonymous. And that's why one of the things I did as I became the chief, I took the gang unit and I put them in with our narcotics unit, so there's a better exchange of information. We have intel meetings. We have one coming up, I believe, this Friday, where we bring all the other agencies, local, state, and federal together, and we share our information on all those subjects, drugs, guns, and gangs, and then they share as well, because a lot of these common players are transit. They move. There's no boundaries. It's not like you buy a McDonald's and you say you can't open another one, then a miles, you got to apply. There's no boundaries for these folks. So a lot of great strides being done that, and there are too many illegal guns. Most of our crimes are committed with illegal possession of firearms. Not the legal owners are mostly very responsible.
The latest scourge in drugs is I shouldn't say the latest, it's been with us for a while, the whole opioid crisis. And one of the real problems is fentanyl, which has been with us for quite a while, but now, as I understand it, a more deadly fentanyl is on the streets. Have we seen that in New Bedford?
Well, without question, we have a pretty good proactive team working on the opioid crisis, our multidisciplinary task force. I don't know if we talked about that last time. We are very proactive on trying to manage our overdoses and get help to those that are easily identifiable because they need medical attention. But fentanyl, without question, is in New Bedford as it is in most of Massachusetts. And when you look at some of the gateway cities, they're all suffering from it, and even on the Cape. Mostly all the overdoses are coming from the fentanyl. So it was years ago, 20, 30 years ago, most of our overdoses were because, one, not only here, this is New York City, Chicago, LA, because one of the dealers had increased the potency of the heroin in their product, which heroin users like, right? And they would put stamps, brand stamping on their packaging so that users knew where they get the most potent stuff. And sometimes we'd get some overdoses there, or someone that was clean for a while or coming out of jail who their tolerance had been lowered would then go use heroin and they would overdose. Today it's much different. Well, it's the fentanyl is so potent that's creating the overdoses, and the same reasons then the dynamics haven't changed. The users want that potency, so they will seek that potency that the fentanyl provides them in the heroin packaging.
I know the police department's teamed up with a number of organizations to respond not only to the overdose incident, but the next day or the day after, visiting families. If someone has survived an overdose, reaching out to them and saying, "Hey, you're lucky. You get another chance. You've got to get yourself cleaned up." I don't know how successful that is. I suppose if you save one life in that circumstance, you're really doing some good work. What do you think of that approach?
I think we have to start thinking outside the box. We can't incarcerate everybody that's suffering from this addiction. So that is one of many pieces of a formula that we're trying to put together, because there is no silver bullet. We are having very much success with it. There's some documentation that's been done, even some shows where some individuals have turned right then and said, "I need to go help for right now." We get them into rehab. We wish it was more. But we also have the opportunity to help families, because there's more than one victim here. It's one that's suffering from the addiction, and the family that's suffering right along with them. For a variety of reasons, as you can imagine. It's devastating waiting for a police officer to come to the door to say that your loved one didn't make that overdose. It's a devastating dynamics for the families that are suffering. So we are having a strong impact in that we're going out 6 days a week, a 24-hour response. Fairhaven and Dartmouth have now joined us in that type of response. We're collaborating with them. We do a drop-in center twice a month throughout the city with a variety of services for those suffering and their families. There's services out there for them as well. A lot of good things happening in that arena. But more has to be done, especially on the prevention side or the next segment of the population that are heading towards that pool of addiction. We're overwhelmed now. We'll be completely overwhelmed. All the systems, from the emergency room to policing, law enforcement, social services, it will be completely overrun.
So we're doing something now. Hopefully it's enough. Probably you're never going to be able to do as much as you want to do, just logistics and finances and all of that, but
there's a lot of good. Here's the good news. The good news, the optimistic point of view that's going on. It's been incredible what we're seeing here in New Bedford from all our partners, profit, nonprofit, social agencies, government agencies that are coming to our meetings every month, and they're there with enthusiasm and passion to come up with solutions for this crisis that we're in. And the biggest piece we're working right now, we just started a subcommittee because we have a variety of subcommittees in the task force of prevention, and we got to get to not only the young kids, but we also have to look at the other demographics, and we need that data of what age group are now entering this opioid addiction, what's leading them there, what we can do to prevent them from even taking, that taste of heroin, because it's a one and out generally.
You're listening to Town Square Sunday. My guest is Police Chief Joseph Cordeiro. Couple of things that have been in the news, but I want to talk to you about them, get an update. I know there's a concerted effort to recruit more Spanish-speaking officers in the department. How are you going about that? Why is that important?
Well, it's extremely important. It's timely that we're talking about this today. I just met with the president for the second time of the Latino Police Association in Massachusetts, so we can join our resources to really get more Spanish-speaking officers on the department. Not any Spanish. We want good quality, great quality, so that they have the opportunities to rise through the ranks. As I've had the great opportunity to do that and represent, the nationality and their culture. It's incredibly important because Spanish-speaking population is growing immensely, and it's although many do speak English, they're much more comfortable speaking in their native language. And it's also about culture, having some empathy for and understanding of their culture when we're trying to elicit information, exchange communications information. It's incredibly important so that they feel comfortable coming to the police with information, especially when they've been victimized. And a population of those that are here undocumented, many, the majority, would say are Spanish speaking. And we need that information. We don't want to see them getting victimized out there and being fearful of the police, unable to communicate in their native language where they're comfortable and get their information communicated to us accurately in articulate fashion so that we can locate, identify, and apprehend those that are causing them all that harm.
And I think you want in the future to have Spanish ranking officers in your department. I mean, people want to see people that look like them and talk like them in important positions. They want to see that. I think it's good. I think from a public relations point of view, it really does a lot for police departments and fire departments and city councils and all of those kinds of things.
I agree with you, Jim, but especially in the police department should and needs to mirror the community that we police for all those reasons we talked about, but for the fact that the community has to have trust in the police. And you already are ahead of the game when you're talking with folks with the same language, same culture, and same nationality.
A couple of more subjects. The city has invested a lot of money in cameras to put in certain neighborhoods as hopefully, to help solve crime, to help locate suspects. We all kind of know how they work. Do you feel you're getting enough bang for your buck with those cameras?
Oh, goodness gracious. They're so powerful of a tool for policing today more than ever. So much that we just finished a $42,000 project The mayor and the city council graciously were able to fund us with another $192,000 that's going out for an RFP now. I'm looking at making another proposal to the mayor and the city council at some point to even expand that even more so. Cameras don't sleep. You know, they just keep on working, and it's hard to argue what you see on video. It's difficult to go to court and say that wasn't me. It's difficult to argue that, and more importantly, it really enforces and eliminates some of the responsibility, not completely, of relying on people to come forward and say, I'll be a witness to that, or giving us information. Or it also advocates and prompts folks to give us information, privately, anonymously, and then we can go to the cameras to get that information that they've already given to us, to reinforce that information, to collaborate that information. It's an incredible tool. The DA's office, I've talked to DA Quinn, he's a big supporter of it. It helps his prosecutions immensely, and a lot less challenges from the defense.
So you want more cameras in New Bedford?
Oh, definitely. We need more cameras, and especially in key areas. My idea of cameras, I'll give it to you real quick, is to expand our camera system now and then have an additional cadre of mobile cameras that we can deploy based on, because we're becoming a database-driven police department. So we can deploy those cameras based on the trends that are happening in real time. So where we don't have coverage, we can deploy those additional pool of cameras where they need to be today, right now, because that's where the crimes are developing.
The proposed public safety building in the South End is on track. I say those are my words. You haven't said
Sure.
that, but the project has been proposed. There is some discussion about sites, but eventually there's going to be a building in the South End of New Bedford, we all hope, that will house police and fire, a combination public safety building. Some of the oldest fire stations in New Bedford are located in the South End. Your police station isn't exactly modern construction. So obviously you feel pretty good about this project, and where are we at with it?
So it's a great project. You know, I commend the mayor for really doing this. You mentioned the South End Police Station, so I'll talk about that. One of our oldest buildings was constructed to be a library, nowhere near what modern policing facilities need to be today. So as we looked at a variety of locations. I'm personally, I think professionally, I'm advocating for, we're looking at the St. Anne's location on Brock Avenue for a variety of reasons, but for policing, the location of the police station doesn't really impact on our response time. Although response time is important for us, our cars are deployed out in the field and are dispatched from the field, not out of the station. But the great impact of having that footprint at that location, as you know, we have a very challenging neighborhood, Root Street, McGurk Street. Since I've been chief, I've been working with a variety of community. I brought a bunch of partners together and said, what can we do for that 10-plus block radius who's been challenged with a variety of challenges? We put cameras at there, a lot of enforcement. By having this footprint here, like we did with the downtown New Bedford, when we put the station back down there in 2007, I was the commander. It's the cruisers, the police cruisers that got to keep coming in and out, passing through that neighborhood, going to and from their sectors, will enhance our presence in that neighborhood, and hopefully it will impact that neighborhood immensely. We also were seeing a little bit of erosion of those challenging folks that have taken residency in that neighborhood, slowly start to take a bigger footprint going further south in that peninsula. This will help us control that area a whole lot better by just being there and having police officers coming in and out, on duty, off duty, to come pick up their equipment to go on a paid detail or go to court, or pick up a variety of other things that they go there. It's just I think it's going to have a big impact.
When will it happen, though, Chief?
So the dates, we're hoping, I'm hoping that, we get through this process fairly quickly. It'd be nice if we could break ground sometime this year. If not, early 2019, and then maybe 2020, maybe, sure. Possibly.
All right. Are you going to go there? Will you be there, or are you going to remain on Rockdale Avenue?
No, we would remain where we are. So the services that are currently at Station 2. The plan is currently, unless something changes, would be those services would close down Station 2 on Cove Street and move all those services over to the public safety facility that would be built. Would be a very modern facility. I've had the opportunity to sit with the Fire Chief, Director McGraw from EMS, planning, and others on that, working with the architect, and we get to start to get a feel of what this is going to look like. And it's going to give it a world-class facility for our officers to work in.
Chief, thanks very much for coming in. I appreciate it. Always appreciate seeing you, and really the best to you and your department. It is a very tough job being a police officer in any city, in any community. You have to make split-second decisions sometimes, and it's a tough job. I respect what your men do and what you are doing to lead this department. Good luck in the future.
Thank you, Jim, and love being here with you. And I'm very fortunate that I have an incredible group of men and women working for the Bedford Police Department, doing an incredible job out there, and my hat's off to them and the community, who's really been an incredible supportive community. Together, we can really make New Bedford a wonderful and beautiful city that it really is.
Townsquare Sunday returns in just a moment.